To say Bryce Harper's contract isn't worth it because what he provided us through the first 90 games of the season going into the break? I thought this Bryce Harper conversation would be interesting. We're 90 games in. We signed this guy for 13 years, $330 million, and the people who don't really understand baseball expect him to hit 7,000 home runs, knock in 75,000 RBIs, hit for 450. But here's reality. You need to realize what going rate is for stars like Bryce Harper. He's a huge name, and when upper management selected this contract and had their eyes on Bryce Harper, they knew he would sell a lot of jerseys, sell a lot of tickets. And guess what? When you sell a lot of tickets, people are buying a lot of food. This was a business decision, and guess what? It worked because Bryce Harper is here, and the fan base is juiced for that big picture. But when it comes to what he gives you, this is about what he gives you. Now, there's one thing underwhelming when it comes to Bryce Harper so far this season, and that's his slugging. The amount of home runs he's hitting. He's at 16. 16 home runs is underwhelming when you look at Pete Alonso, who has 30. When you look at Christian Yelich, also in that area. When there are guys hitting in that 30 range at the break. Now, I'm not saying Bryce Harper had to do that, and I know this year the baseball is flying out of the ballpark and it's juiced. I'm not saying Bryce Harper had to hit in the 30 range to make me happy with where we are now 90 games in. But I expected more than 16. But I also know that Bryce Harper can get hot, and when he gets hot, he really gets going, and if he gets on a rampage of hitting dingers, he's really going to spark it up. I expect more than 16 homers in the second half. But looking at what Bryce Harper has provided us so far, I'm not complaining. I'm really not complaining. Of course, there were times where it was ugly. And there were times where it was explosive. Hello? That's what Bryce Harper is. To say he's not worth the contract, to say, oh, we shouldn't have signed him. There's no way we should have signed him for that money. We should have spent money in other ways. We should have went out and got starting pitching. The reason we don't have starting pitching is not because of this contract with Bryce Harper. Take a look at how much money we're actually spending. We're in the middle of the league in baseball. The one contract was hefty, but when it comes to big picture and where we are in the MLB when it comes to spending the cash, we're about middle of the pack. So, batting average, .253. Okay. Bryce Harper is a new style baseball player. If you're old school, batting average is huge. Bryce Harper is new school. He's this generation of baseball. Batting average isn't the biggest thing. Keep in mind, last year at this time, he was hitting, .214? Oh yeah, and made the All-Star game. .253 is not pathetic for where Bryce Harper is right now, considering where he once was, too. But his OBP 370 still finding ways to get on base, and his OBPS 839. 62 RBIs knocked in, which is 13th in the league. On pace for what? Do the math? Yeah, that would be outstanding. 16 homers, like I said, 59 walks, which is 7th in the MLB. He finds ways to get on base. Doubles, tied for 8th. With 24. His power numbers aren't there, but he's still being effective. He's still changing the way this lineup goes. He's a big-time factor in that 3-hole when it comes to this lineup, in between Gene Segura and Rhys Hoskins. When I study Bryce Harper's game, and I look at what he's done all around in 90 games, I know there's ups, I know there's downs. But all around, when you study what he did for us, he's not the reason why this team isn't higher up in the standings. He's just not. I hate the fact that people go in and crush Bryce Harper. We need our stars to step up. They need to pick it up. I hate that argument. He's doing just fine. Can he produce more? In some aspects, yes. He can slug more. But guess what? He was so down at one point. And what did he do? He changed his approach. Well, maybe I should stop just focusing on crushing homers and find other ways to help this baseball team. Whether it's doubles, going the other way. One big thing I notice is using the whole ballpark. Going the other way with it. Using where the pitcher's throwing the ball to his advantage. And it's effective. He's hitting better. He's getting on base more. I have no knock on Bryce Harper so far. One thing that I know a lot of fans get upset with is his aggression on the base paths. And Corey Seidman actually put out a tweet just in time of me thinking about making this video, and I thought it was fantastic to use. So, 8 times Bryce Harper has been thrown out on the bases, and that's not including steals. So we all know he likes to stretch a lot of singles into doubles, and he gets thrown out at second base, and we get all pissed off. Or he tries to go from first to third, and he gets thrown out by a mile. We get all pissed off. 8 times. Fairly decent amount of times. But he follows that up with saying, let's not make it seem like that happens every single time he runs. He's successfully stretched a single into a double, or going from second base to home 11 times this season. So if you're going to crush the brutal base running, you have to value when he was aggressive, and it ended up working out for this ball club and helping this team down the line. When we signed Bryce Harper, you needed to have realistic expectations. Take away the money. Sadly, the money's always going to be tied to this guy because it's such a big, hefty contract. And he's not Mike Trout. He's a big name. He really is. He's the face of baseball. Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, but Bryce Harper's the face of baseball. He's a name that is tied with the game. But he doesn't have the numbers to that degree, but there's still value. He doesn't have the numbers of Mike Trout, but there's still value in having a face of baseball. When you're thinking it from a upper management mindset. But realistically, I expected in the 270 range of batting average, 40 dingers, and a really great amount of RBIs. If he finishes the year with something like that's what you need to realize. That's what he's going to do for you. That's the range we're looking at. Know the expectations. Know what Bryce Harper is. What we've seen so far through 90 games, this is Bryce Harper. So get used to it. It's on you if you expected more. We've seen Bryce Harper how many times? How many years? When he was coming here from Washington, or we were going to Washington? Now, it's different when you study a player every game, day in and day out, and then when you see him when he comes in for divisional games. There's a big time difference, because you see all of his flaws. But you also see all of his great times, but you see all of his flaws more. Bryce Harper's doing just fine, in my opinion, and I want to know what you think. Take away the batting average as a whole. In this era of baseball, batting average is like 5th on the list in things that actually matter. He walks, he gets on base. Now he strikes out a lot. He's at 105 strikeouts, which is 4th in the league, but the rate has died out. At one point, he was blowing the league out of the water with how many strikeouts he was at. But he's starting to get into a rhythm of getting up to bat speed. His bat speed is at a different level from when it was in the beginning of the year. And we knew it was going to start out slow because of the fact of how much time he got with spring training and whatnot. But his rate of striking out has slowed down. He gets on base. He knocks in a lot of runs. I'm telling you, 62 RBIs. Unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. He's on pace. He's on pace to knock in a boatload of runs. The only aspect of his game I would like to see get better is his home runs. But I think once he gets going and once he sees it happen, it clicks. It clicks for him. But maybe he's thriving with doubles and walks and other things. because he's not so focused on homers. He's going up to the plate saying, I just want to get on base. Let me get on base. And from my standpoint, I'm cool with it. I'm absolutely cool with it. I'm totally accepting of what Bryce Harper has provided us through 90. Remember we talked about him being such a defensive liability? There's times where he misses some fly balls that he probably should have. But how many diving catches has he had? How many effort plays out in the field has he done for this squad? I wouldn't go as far as defensive liability. Does he get a little lackadaisical at times with simple plays? Maybe. He's not Gold Glove. But he's not defensive liability either. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.